Hi, it's Dr. Deanna. Welcome to my office. This is where I create all of the learning episodes for littles. I design them right here. And so welcome to my space. Today I'm going to be sharing with you about what to do when your child has achieved that skill of blending and what comes next. So for a lot of families and a lot of parents and educators, that skill of being able to blend three sound words. So we have the word, for instance, the stereotypical cat, at, cat. And having a child that it has reached that skill, that has achieved the skill of being able to blend that feels great because that is a skill that is not always easy for our littles to achieve. And it's definitely a milestone moment. But the question is, what, if anything, do I do now? Do we move on right away? And the answer is going to vary. So I'm going to give you several options that you can take right back into your classroom, into your homeschool situation. Again, my background, I spent over 20 years in the K through 3 classroom. I have my doctorate degree in curriculum and instruction. I'm a homeschool mom as well. So I left the academic world and I'm now situated almost into a retired homeschool mom. So that's where I'm at with my journey. But I'm here to share with you tips and strategies that worked not only when I was in the classroom and really had a lot of success in creating readers and taking students from where they were and growing them, but also with my own two boys who I also taught to read. So these skills, these ideas, they come from a very professional and personal place. And I'm so happy to be here to share them with you. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I have tons of videos, resources, all for free, as well as some items on my TPT storefront that correlate and overlap with the skills and activities in my videos. And those are very cost effective. I give strategies of how to be able to use them over and over again. Also hit like so this video will get out to as many families as possible to help get this information out for families who are doing the very best they can for their littles. All right, so diving right into the question of my child can blend words. What do I do next? Let me tell you, there are various things we can move on to, and it depends on the child. So I'm going to give you several options, as I previously stated, and the idea is for you to, knowing your child best, decide which is the next step. And if you would like to work with me personally on navigating a path for your child in their reading instruction, I welcome you to contact me. My email, my contact information is in the description of this video. Again, check out my contact information. But the first step I would recommend is to allow children to take their newfound skill and move it on to decodable text. Decodable text are books or reading material that children have the ability to independently blend, read, decode. They have the skill sets to read the words that they're presented with, but it is in a book or some sort of story format. So there's a couple different options. A lot of families really love the Bob books. We started out with some Bob books. That was great. But you want to be careful with some of those early easy readers. They follow some of the old school rules. Still okay to have around. But if you want truly decodable text, make sure you're looking for that key word that is decodable and knowing what that really means. And a Bob text or Bob books would be a great place to start. I also have sentence strips that are on my TPT storefront. I will link that down below, and those are decodable in order to expand the children's vocabulary and ability to read about various things. I do include labeled pictures within the text. And there are differing opinions about that. I do believe that as long as we are drawing the children's attention to the actual sentence, that we are not detracting from their ability to learn how to follow the structure of language and developing into very capable readers. So check those sentence strips out. That would be a next first step. Another thing that you can do is to build sentences. And I have a video out that I just released. It was a review, a skill set video where we build a sentence. And again, it's right up here. I will put a card up here so that you can check that video out, because I walk through how to build a sentence step by step. But in any case, I'll go ahead and put the card up there. You can check it out. I show families and children how to build a sentence utilizing spaces between their words and really stretching words out as we spell them. So it shows children they can follow along if they have a whiteboard and participate with me as we write a sentence. So you can check that video out and get an idea even what that would look like to do a sentence building activity with your child. All right, so we already talked about 2 ways that you can extend learning for children that are blending their first words. And the first one would be to read decodable text. And the second one would be to move on to building sentences. Now, the next suggestion that I have would be, once children are able to blend simple and basic first words with 3 sounds, like cat or pit, for instance. We call them CVC words because they have a consonant, vowel, consonant. Then we can move them on to more complex phonics patterns. Typically, the first pattern we start to move children onto is the mighty E, or the silent E with a long vowel. That would be one of the phonics concepts that you could try. Another phonics concept that we tend to introduce as a step into trickier phonics concepts is blends. So consonant blends. That would be things like the ST in start, or the BL in blimp. Okay, those beginning consonant blends, and of course, ending consonant blends. That would be a next step. Of course, the 2 examples I gave, they're even a little more complex because they actually have, blimp, for instance, had a consonant blend at the end and the beginning. That would be yet another step to take. So looking for those types of skills, the mighty silent E with the long vowel, and also consonant blends. That would be a great way to move your child into their next steps of more complex phonics patterns. Now, one thing we want to be careful of as we move towards trickier phonics patterns is we want to stay away from something called the drip system. And that's sort of like, you can think of a drippy faucet that just drip, 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 little bit at a time. It would take forever to fill that bucket up. And we don't want to stretch things out too long. If a child is ready to learn those trickier concepts, again, I'm having trouble with my little pronunciation. If they're ready for that, then you can go ahead and move them on to those trickier concepts and, in fact, bundle them together. So what that would look like is, for instance, if I were introducing the consonant blends, I might start with consonant blends that have S in them. So like ST, SL. I wouldn't just introduce ST one week and SL the next week. I wouldn't stretch it out like that. I would go ahead and say, like, we're working on consonant blends, the S blends. And even for some, they would just say, let's just do blends. I personally do think it's wise to dip your toe in with your child and your students and test the waters out. S blends tend to be the consonant blend to start with because children do better with, first of all, they're very familiar with S. Everybody loves S, and it tends to be one of the first letters they've learned. But also, children tend to have an easier time pronunciating that sound and the way their muscles move in conjunction with other consonants. So that tends to be why we start with the S blends when we jump into teaching consonant blends. But again, we don't want to just pace it out too slow. When we get to things like our long vowels, there's a lot of ways that we can represent the long E sound. And I've already talked a little bit about one of those, and that's the mighty E with the silent E at the end and the long vowel pattern. But when we get into like those vowel teams and we have like E and EA, there's lots of different ways to represent the E, the long E. And we really can introduce those in parallel. Now, if you notice your child struggling with that, you can take a step back. But typically, introducing them all at once is actually really beneficial for your child. Their brain is wired to acquire language. So they're built for it. This is not going to be something that on average is going to trip your child up. They might have to work on it a little extra. There might be some things that are trickier than others. And I've covered this in another video, but I love, love, love sorting when it comes to teaching these types of skills because it allows the child to analyze the difference between, for instance, this word is saying the long E with the EE. Oh, this word is saying the long E with the EA. Okay. And we sort them like that. I do have a video that covers that concept as well. And again, there's tons of resources both in my Parent University playlist as well as the playlist I have for learning episodes for littles. So check those out too, because I have lots of videos that cover all of these different topics. So that would be the next thing I would encourage you to do is to jump into or just dip your toe into some of the more complex phonics patterns. All right. The next thing I would say is also chat about phonics because that helps your child become comfortable with the language of phonics. And we see some teachers that do this really, really well. I love to watch because it's so fun, especially if you hear a teacher that's dialoguing with their class. And when the students or the child just understands and knows, oh yeah, that's because the I comes before the E usually, but not after C. And they know some of that language. And then they're super ready or readier when they come across the times that it deviates from that rule. It's okay. You can be like, oh, well, you know this rule or this story, but guess what? There's another way that we can use this vowel team. So go ahead and talk the language of phonics. Sometimes you may even want to model how you notice it in a label. Oh, I see the E twins, the two E's. They're saying E. Just point it out as you go throughout your day as well. It's not necessarily a way to do all of your teaching, but it can be a component to help your child learn to dialogue that language of phonics, which will make it easier as you teach them new skills, and they can basically circle back and use their prior knowledge that they have a lot of practice discussing with you. So that's my third tip. My next one is to do fun things, build words and make it a game. You can use your whiteboard. If you have one, I got this one. It's hand to mind. Learning resources, even just a plain whiteboard. You don't have to have the L Conan boxes. This one is kind of fun because it does have for larger words on the back. It actually comes in a set that has it for several different sizes of words. But in any case, being able to use a whiteboard and a marker as they practice writing more challenging phonics words is really great. Just simple magnetic letters. They don't have to be from an education store. You can get them wherever you can get them for the best price that you can get them. That's totally up to you as a parent. But, using magnetic letters is a great resource as well. So I do recommend having some on hand because that gets the child actually involved in moving the letters around, which builds better connections. It's more, it's whole body, right? We're using, their movement, connecting to their brain. And so it's just building pathways in their brain that help them to be able to apply the learning a little better. All right. So that is my next thing to do as you are moving past those first words that your child is reading. All right. And next, it would be to build spelling skills. So this is really the inverse of reading. And honestly, the strategies I just gave you are actually perfect for building those spelling skills. Remember, if your child is blending these words, the best way to know how much they are actually truly knowing and understanding what knowledge they actually possess is to watch their spelling, because spelling is application. And if you can see that they're using it in their spelling, you can say that they have that skill. It doesn't mean they never mess up with that skill. We all make mistakes, even things that we know. Sometimes we just miss it or whatever. But in general, that's a great way to assess. We used to do something called a spelling inventory with children, but you don't even have to do anything that's super, formal. You can just watch how they spell some words if they're doing that and see what spelling skills, what phonics rules they're applying to their writing. Because writing is, again, it's the inverse of reading. It takes a little bit different process in the brain, and it's actually complicated in a whole nother way. And so working on applying these skills to your child's writing and spelling is also a great next step to take. And with that, I invite you, if you haven't already, to subscribe. I hope you come back for more information. And check out my learning episodes if you haven't already, to get your child learning and moving and clapping their way to reading. All right, I'll see you next time when I teach to your students learning strengths, one child and family at a time.